Yo, Joe. Yes. Kent's Brindley here. Vintage toy nerd. Vintage animation nerd. Child of the 1980s. Like any other child of the 1980s. To be fair, some collected Matchbox cars or Hot Wheels. I collected action figures. I collected action figures, and I had to watch said action figures in animated form almost every morning and afternoon. Of course, I collected Masters of the Universe. I can talk about them another time. I am here to talk about my G.I. Joes. My top 10 G.I. Joe figures that I had in my collection. If you are a child of the 1960s, I know where there might be some confusion, but these aren't your G.I. Joes. These are the originals that eventually led to the tiny 3.5-inch figures of G.I. Joe and Cobra, their multitude of accessories, and their plethora of vehicles. Thank you, Hasbro. Thank you, Sunbow, for putting them on TV. Thank you, Marvel, for the comic books. And I digress. We're here to talk about the action figures. The top 10 figures that I had in my collection. Now, I wasn't collecting until '88. In fact, my first G.I. Joe figure was Muskrat, so thank goodness for antique stores for allowing me to fill in some of the figures that I saw on the TV screen. Because I wasn't about to find Duke or Snake Eyes or Zartan or the chrome masked Cobra Commander in the local Big Wheel. Not in 1988-89. Now this is about the figures. I will have some honorable mentions about some of my favorite vehicles eventually. Let's get started. A nice book here for pictorial purposes. The far nicer book is long out of print and would have been about $300. So we're sticking with this one. I really wish I hadn't sold the old one, but again, I digress. Alright, let's kick things off at number 10. Always a nice place to start a top 10 list, isn't it? What do we got here? Who was number 10? Oh, yeah. Alright. Number 10 was my boy Dusty. My boy Dusty in his Tiger Force outfit. That's the Iron Grenadier. We'll talk about him later. That's my giant ass finger. That's Lifeline. Dusty. There we go. I think he was probably my third figure for the G.I. Joe team. Maybe my fourth figure overall. Muskrat came first, then Crazy Legs, and I think I got the Iron Grenadier for Cobra. Or Destro's Iron Grenadiers, excuse me. Then Dusty. Yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, Tiger Force Dusty. He had that really nice camouflage uniform on. And he just was seated naturally on the Tiger Paw vehicle that I will talk about later. So I had a great figure, and he had a natural vehicle to sit on. That may or may not have been the box art for the Tiger Paw, and that's where I got the idea. Yeah, I think the box art was Tiger Force Dusty and Tiger Force Lifeline seated on the Tiger Paw together. Basically a repainted Cobra Ferret, but for me it was pretty cool, and I could even, and if I watched the right episode of G.I. Joe, there would have been Dusty in his desert camos, which he actually wore on the series, and at 4, 5 some odd years old, I wouldn't have even asked why he was miscolored. Anyway, moving on. Number 9, the fridge. Before you even ask, yes, that fridge. Mr. Number 72, William Refrigerator Perry from the Bears. He came with that spiked football that made him look more like a lacrosse player. Fridge was a mail-in figure, so he'd be pretty valuable right now, I think. Haven't looked up the value on that lately since I sold my G.I. Joe collection for an extreme markdown about 8 years ago. But, yeah, that's another story for another time. Refrigerator Perry, number 9. That Sandsbar, he's cool too. Refrigerator Perry, number 9. Go Lions! I said what I said. Number 8. Alright, my boy, my very first figure. My very first figure in his actual colors, in his original colors. There he is. Muskrat. He had the machete, he had the assault rifle looking thing. He had that really cool surfboard for surfing in the swamps, I guess. Yeah, but it was not only a backpack, it was a vehicle of his very own, and that's pretty cool. My very first figure, I hold him kind of near and dear, and I guess that's what got me thinking, why do I not see my figures in animated form? Most likely because G.I. Joe originally ran from... Most likely because G.I. Joe, the syndicated animated series, ran from about 85 to 86, 87. The miniseries from 83 and the miniseries from 84 are... But yeah. In syndication, it was 85 to about 87. Then, thank you, reruns. Knowing is half the battle. Number 7. Number 7, we have to talk about the Cobras. Or, specifically, we have to talk about the Iron Grenadiers, particularly the Iron Grenadier. I think it's a really nice figure. It was doled out in all black and with the red face mask. It looked a lot like a robot, so... And I never minded a good expendable robot enemy soldier that could be just as easily replaced. I hated seeing people get hurt. If it was even in animated form, I hated seeing people actually get hurt, let alone killed. A robot soldier, easily replaced, easily expendable. Have at it. But yeah, the Iron Grenadier is basically how Hasbro differentiated Destro's troops from Cobras. Because despite Destro always being there in the animated series, he was paid for hire. He was paid for hire by Cobra Commander. He was not a Cobra. Alright, who have we got next? Who's up next? Number 6. Quick Kick. Quick Kick. Where are you? I should know this. I specifically wrote down where they are. Oh. Wait a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Quick Kick. It's gotta be in here somewhere. I'll find him. Anyway. Quick Kick was their silent weapon, was G.I. Joe's silent weapons aficionado. He was kind of he wasn't a ninja, he was a martial artist. He in the animated series, he was always talking quips or quoting movies or something, because I think he was a movie stunt man in his civilian life. But Quick Kick the figure. I was very lucky to find him in an antique store one day. But unfortunately, his story has a sad ending. He was also the first figure that I found in the bottom of the G.I. Joe barrel one day in 3 separate pieces of his upper torso, his waist, and his legs. I didn't know at the time that the G.I. Joes were rubber banded together, so this was an extremely common injury for the older ones, let alone easily repaired. Alas, Quick Kick was the first G.I. Joe to become trash can fodder that day, because I was convinced he was ruined, never to be seen, never to be repaired again. That guy. And I didn't even know why, because obviously he'd been sitting in the bottom of the G.I. Joe barrel, and I hadn't been, and it's not like I'd been roughhousing with the figures or something. But yeah, that was the end of his tale. Alright, number 6. That was number 6. Hold on. We're halfway through the list. That was as good a time as any to talk about the vehicles. Sky Striker was a great vehicle. It came with Ace. It was a great antiquing day when I found the Sky Striker with Ace, and that's not even the end of that antiquing adventure. A Tiger Paw was... We talked about the Tiger Paw. It was a tiger camo colored ATV, and it perfectly seated Tiger Force Dusty. The Snowcat was a great G.I. Joe vehicle. was like a truck, a white truck with a missile launcher on the back. Great vehicle. I loved it. The APC, the Automated Personnel Carrier, could seat easily 20 G.I. Joe figures in the back of it, plus the driver and the co-pilot. Great vehicle, just great for the collection, great for carrying the troops. The Cobra Ferret, yes. It would be repainted to turn into the Tiger Paw, but again, it was an ATV, and it was just great for carrying not one but two figures. We'll get back to that in a minute. The Cobra Water Moccasin, it came with Copperhead. It was a great water vehicle. I've seen it on the animated series a couple of times, and it came with its own pilot. The Drednoks Swamp Fire. Probably my favorite enemies for G.I. Joe were the Drednoks. Zartan and his Drednoks, and I'm not done talking about them yet. The Swamp Fire gave them a great vehicle. The Cobra Stun. You could easily sit or situate about 9 Cobra figures on this thing, and I used it to support the Drednoks when I was displaying it. Number 5. Number 5, where are you? Oh yeah. The aforementioned Zartan. Yes. The Master of Disguise. More of a mercenary for hire for Cobra Commander. He led the Drednoks, who were kind of like a cycle gang. He, again, if not for the animated series, he would never have cemented such a high place in my collection. I was very lucky to find Zartan in an antique store. He didn't have his swamp skier with him yet. For that, I eventually turned to eBay, but he came with the swamp skier to skate around on. He had his backpack. He had an attaché case. He had the face mask for his disguise. And his hood there was actually removable, almost like a very embarrassing wig. Oh, you can see his shoulder pads and his armor too. Zartan, he may or may not have actually done the color. He may or may not have actually changed color to fit with his very, very early appearances on G.I. Joe. By the time I found him in an antique store, that feature may have very well been worn out. Anyway, Zartan. Number 4. Xamot and Tomax. The Crimson Guard Commanders, the Crimson Twins. Messrs. Extensive Enterprises. Xamot and Tomax led the Crimson Guard, who were Cobra's undercover operatives. They were very much shady businessmen on the TV series. But the thing with two figures is that they easily seated themselves on the Cobra Ferret opposite Dusty and one other figure. Let's see here. Xamot and Tomax, the Crimson Twins. The Crimson Guard Commanders. Moving on. Number 3. The Cobra BAT. The Cobra Bat. Here he is. Again, it's a robot. It's easily expendable. I could kind of look the other way as they were destroyed because I knew they'd be replaced. You know, the three interchangeable hands very much remind me of my absolute favorite Masters of the Universe villain, Trapjaw. But you see that the Battle Android Trooper is three interchangeable arms. That got my attention when I was little. It was a nice callback to my other favorite action figure collection, like I just said. Number 3. Was that number 3? It was number 3. Number 2. We're on the home stretch. My boy, Storm Shadow. Great figure. Just great. I was very lucky to find him in an antique store one day. Albeit that by the time I found Storm Shadow, his figure was very, very bleached, or the sun had gotten to him or something, because his skin was the exact same color as his wardrobe. It looks like a mummy. Oh boy. Yeah, I remember this. I remember this well. Storm Shadow as a mummy. That would be a cool figure. That would be an interesting figure right there. Alright. Okay, so he didn't have his accessories, and his skin was very, very bleached, or he was basically a very worn out figure. Why? Storm Shadow was simply a great figure. He was great for any G.I. Joe collection, and I was very lucky to have him in mine when I had never managed to find like Cobra Commander or Destro or the Baroness or Firefly for that matter, or Scarlet and Lady Jaye or Flint. So they've sadly missed out on the list and are very, very glaring omissions because I'm talking about my collection. Back to my collection. Some honorable mentions. Honorable mentions. Honorable mentions. Here we go. Ripcord. Ripcord looked very, very natural in the back of the Sky Striker once I finally found it and Ace. I told you I'm not done talking about that particular antiquing adventure. Spirit. I can't even remember if I had Spirit, but if I had, that is one great figure, lots of great accessories. He even comes with Freedom the Eagle. That's awesome. Duke, First Sergeant Hauser. I found him the same day that I found the Sky Striker and Ace, and I'm still not done talking about that antiquing day. Granted, I had to be like 26, 27 years old, but this was a big deal. These were guys I hadn't found when I was little. Let's see. Jinx. I have to talk about at least one of the G.I. Joe females, and Jinx was one awesome lady. She was not only a woman, she was a ninja. That's great. She came from the G.I. Joe animated movie. If all you know is the live action movies, then I promise, check this out. The animated G.I. Joe movie was very much late 80s direct-to-video, but a lot better than the live-action movies. Lightfoot was a great figure I loved this guy. He was like a bomb expert or a demolitions expert, I think. I can't remember. Outback. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Outback. He's seated very naturally behind Dusty on the Tiger Paw vehicle. He was a great figure. I loved it. Starduster. Hey, where is this guy? Oh. No, I know. I'm sure I'm on the right page. Yeah. Talk amongst yourselves one more time. Ah. Oh, here he is, right beside Quick Kick. They're both disappearing on me. Starduster. Another mail-in figure, and I know how valuable this guy is. I keep looking him up on eBay. I wish I hadn't sold him. But that's the thing with the mail-away figures. You needed just enough proofs of purchase, then you needed to wait for this guy. So he's going to be rare. Now more than just the G.I. Joes made honorable mentions. I mean, I already talked about the Drednoks, so here are Buzzer and Ripper, both great figures. Ripper for his accessories, Buzzer because he was my favorite Drednok from the TV series, behind Zartan, of course. Okay, hang on. I'm losing my place again. Here we go. General Voltar. He was Destro's Iron Grenadier General. He's a great looking figure. I don't quite understand the vulture, but okay. Great looking figure, great colors. I had to pick at least one of Cobra's Vipers. It came down to the Toxo Viper or the Hydro Viper, and the Hydro Viper wins. Again, for its accessories. The Techno Viper was pretty cool too. Hydro Viper makes the honorable mention. We have Undertow. Undertow is oh, right here. I remember unpackaging him when I was about 6, 7 years old, whichever year he came out. Whichever year he came out, that was the birthday gift for me. A great figure, I mean. Great accessories. He's got the swordfish. He's got the vehicle. He's got the flip. He's got the spear. And we have the Cobra Infantry Man. Cobra Infantry right here. Oh, this guy deserved to be so much higher on the list. He deserved to make the list. Except that by the time I found him, I was generally pretty picky that the G.I. Joes were at least in one piece. I mean, they would be by the time I found them in antique stores, they'd be missing their accessories. I was willing to accept that. I was generally pretty picky that they were in one piece, and then I got the Cobra Infantry Man home, and I think he was literally all thumbs because someone had chewed off the rest of his fingers. Yeah, that wasn't so. He wasn't such a great figure for display at that point. The poor guy. If I'd have known, I'd have passed him by in the antique store, looked him up on eBay later, and just paid the difference. Number 1. What would be a top 10 list without a number 1? And where would the G.I. Joes be without Snake Eyes and Timber. That completed that particular antique store day. That completed that particular antiquing adventure. I was about 27, 28, 20... I think I was 27 or 28. But in one shot, I had found the Sky Striker with Ace, I had found Duke, and I had found Snake Eyes with Timber. My childhood was complete. My childhood was complete minus like Scarlet or Lady Jaye or Cover Girl or Destro or Baroness or Firefly or... I digress. My childhood was complete. Again, I had seen the animated series long before I had seen the figures, so I knew that Snake Eyes was the one to get. That was my top 10 for G.I. Joe and Cobra. Specifically my top 10 for my collection, and at this point I'm just beating the dead horse that some great figures were missing because I could never acquire them and were replaced by some that were great in my memory. This has been Mr. Kent Brindley's top 10 G.I. Joe figures from his collection. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle.